I'm going to tell you about some terrible mistakes that people make when they do presentations. And I'll start with one of David Ogilvy's memorable aphorisms: you cannot bore people into buying. And a presentation, of course, is an opportunity to sell things to people. Never punish an innocent audience, as a man from one of America's best-known advertising agencies did the other day in New Delhi, where I was speaking. I was persuaded by the organisers to go and watch him, and he's obviously an expert. He's a very able guy, but his presentation did not do him justice, and I'm just going to go through 12 things you should never do that he did, any one of which can kill your sale and screw up your presentation beyond all belief. So number one, the first thing he said was, it's 7:30 a.m. in the US, which is where he comes from, which was of no interest to anyone. And then he put up a slide called About Me. About me. Always remember that what you do in a presentation or in anything to do with business is just like real life. And imagine meeting somebody in a bar and then starting the conversation with, let me tell you about myself. Wouldn't work, would it? Well, anyhow, he then showed a picture of his father and brother and himself in a football stadium in Detroit. I understand, in fact I know, that the football stadium is now derelict, but that's another subject. But were we really interested in his family? And this was followed by stuff about his university, which was Michigan State. And I perked up there only because I spoke at Michigan State years ago. But I don't think anybody else in the audience was in the least bit interested. It was an Indian audience, obviously, in New Delhi, so none of them knew where Michigan State was. Now, if his mother had been in the audience, that would have been absolutely perfect, but she wasn't, and so nobody was very interested. He then went on to say, with admirable understatement, but that's enough about me. At this point, I would say he'd lost most of his audience. I was watching them, and they're all starting to fiddle with their little mobile devices. But he then did something you should never do. He put words on the screen and read them out verbatim. And that causes a great problem. It causes audience schizophrenia. People don't know whether to look at him or look at the audience. So never do that. The talk had a title which I didn't really understand. How to accelerate your activation engine for a better customer experience. I guess that means how to get stuff done faster, but either way, after that, since almost every single word on the screen was jargon, it was irrelevant. You know, there's oceans of research that shows that people resent, dislike, disapprove of, are bored by, and driven mad by business jargon. Don't use it. Use simple words everyone knows, then everyone will understand, as Winston Churchill put it. From then on, there was a big screen there. From then on, every single slide was just a series of words, arrows, boxes. All of the words were hard to see. I was sitting near the front. God knows what the people in the back could see. Not only were they too small to see properly, they were in the kind of colours that are hard to distinguish against a white background. Well, this is disaster. And by this time, almost every single person in that room was looking at their mobiles and sending messages to their mother or whatever. I just couldn't stand any more. And I left. Now, before you sit there and say, Drayton, you shit, how could you be so unkind about this man, this able, talented man? Well, I have a confession to make. At least two of the mistakes that I mentioned here are ones that I used to make myself regularly. Doesn't mean to say you must. Look, if you can't sell it, you might just as well never have done it, never have created it. Presentations are enormously important. Now, if you'd like to know what I've learnt about presentations, I've put together a video which is based upon my experience at Ogilvy and Mather. there was a period for about 3 or 4 years where just about everything we pitched for, we won. So although what I'm going to talk about may not apply precisely to your business or your situation, I think you may find it helpful. So you can download it here.